Understand that is by understanding that there are two aspects to life. One is ibadat and the other is muamalat. And righteousness in muamalat can be expected of believers and non-believers. All of humanity are expected to have righteousness in our muamalat. So when we interact with each other, when we interact with others, we have to show an element of righteousness, of being honest, of being trustworthy, of being fair, of being just towards each other. And that is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, that you are different people, you belong to different tribes, different ethnicities, different nationalities. It is a divine purpose. It is not an accident. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intended this so that we may learn to know each other. What is the point of knowing each other? This entire creation is a tajalli, a manifestation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He makes himself known to us through his creation. When we deal with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there are two aspects. One is an aspect of tanzih and the other aspect of tashbih. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, "Laysa kamithlihi," there is nothing like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If there is nothing like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it also tells us that we can never know him. Because we know things through comparison, through tashbih. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also reveals himself to us through his names. He's Rahman, he's Rahim, he's Wudud, he's merciful, he's compassionate, he loves, he's Latif, subtle. And through this tashbih, through this comparison, we come to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The way we have been created is something that prevents us to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like we know our own self, like we know this world, like we know day and night and red and blue and so on and so forth. So when we learn about each other, we get an intuitive understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his creation. There is this famous hadith that says, "He who knows himself knows his Lord. Man arafa nafsihi fa'arafa rabbi." He who knows himself knows his Lord. But if you can't know yourself, if you know the other, you're doing the same thing. If he knows himself, he knows his Lord. If I know myself, I know my Lord. But what if I know him and he knows me? It's the same thing. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "I have created you as different people so that you may know each other," all of this is so that we may know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We may recognize him, submit to him, glorify him, remember him, worship him, pray to him, and love him. That is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he says, nothing else matters to him except taqwa and this piety of interaction. And this is exactly what Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said in his last khutbah. That a white man is not superior to a black man, an Arab is not superior to a non-Arab. The only thing that makes the difference is your piety, your taqwa. It is from the same ayah that he is drawing that conclusion. This ayah in Surah Al-Hujurat, verse number 19. When you read this, there is an interesting verse just 2 verses before this. And I'm going to read to you, and it is perhaps going to be an important verse for our life in the near future at least. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Now this time he is addressing not all of humanity, but particularly Muslims and believers. That would include the people of the book. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, la yaskhar qawmun min qawmin asa an yakunu khayran minhum. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, "Oh, you have believed, do not mock other people. It is possible that they might be better than you." You know, it has a sense of humor to it also. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, in your ignorance, do not go and mock someone who is better than you. And why would they be better than you? It is because the criteria that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala adopts in judging people is different from the criteria that we adopt. These verses, there are 2 or 3 asbab al-nuzul for this ayah in the tarikh. There was a tribe that came to visit and became Muslim, and then they saw some Sahabi who were poor. And they started making fun of the poor Sahabi. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala got upset and sent this ayah and saying, do not mock other people, they may be better than you. Obviously they are better than you, they live with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam every day. In the company of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They are the Sahaba, the dear ones, the close ones. So this is an important verse, but what does it mean today to us, the Muslims who are living in America? In the last 1.5 years, it has become obvious to us. The people of Tasawwuf say that there are at least 70 diseases of the heart that we can acquire. They can be anger, they can be jealousy, they can be hatred. If you're jealous of someone, if you hate someone, if you are angry, if you're sad, all of this distracts you from zikr and remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you become ghafil, because now you are consumed by the emotion that your heart is under. So if your heart is clouded by this, and that is why one aspect of tazkiyah nafs, or purification of the self, is healing of the heart. The Prophet ﷺ once said, do not go and do dawah to the hungry. First feed them, then do dawah. Because in their hunger they may commit kufr by not responding to the dawah. Because the hunger can be so consuming and distracting that you will even forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there are many diseases. Many of the people of Tasawwuf have identified these diseases. And we all suffer from it. Even psychiatrists today have identified the dysfunctionalities of our personality. We do not fit. And we try to heal them. But there are 4 diseases that we collectively as Americans these days seem to manifest, which are affecting everything, making us one of the most dysfunctional countries in the world. Number 1 is racism. Number 2 is sexism. And 3 and 4 are antisemitism and Islamophobia. If you look at hate crimes today, the highest number of hate crimes today in America still are anti-Semitic hate crimes. In 2016, 60% of all hate crimes in America were against Jews. A lot of Muslims often wonder about the enormous power of the American Jewish community, enormous influence, how well placed they are, how wealthy they are, how much control they have about some of the most important institutions of American society, including the media, etc. Yet, anti-Semitism is one of the most profoundest hatreds in America, besides racism, obviously. The second highest amount of hate crimes that have been committed in America in 2016 was Islamophobic, 14%. But according to statistics, we are less than 1% of this country's population. Do not believe those statistics that you get from Muslim organization who says there are 6 million Muslims. Go back and check your email. 20 years ago, a CARE's email would say we are 6 million Muslims, and now 20 years later they are still saying we are 6 million Muslims. No change in the Muslim population. By estimates, we are anywhere between 3 to 4 million. So we are about 0.8 to 1.1% of this country's population. But we get 14% of the hate crimes. So we are suffering 14 times more than our share of intolerance in this country. These are one of the 4 diseases: racism, sexism. Sexism is bias against women in the workplace and other places. Racism is obviously well known. We can be familiar with the Black Lives Matter movement. Muslims are part of the Black Lives Matter movement. One of the most important segments of the Muslim community is part of who suffer racism. So imagine if you are a black Muslim, you are suffering 2 of these diseases. And if you are a black Muslimah, you're suffering from 3 of the 4 ailments that are so dominant in America. You're suffering from sexism, you're suffering from racism, and you're suffering from Islamophobia. Next time you see a black sister, be very nice and considerate to her. She is probably the most suffering entity in this country. And we had a very sad episode that happened to us. 2 days ago, Imam Tariq and Dr. Naveed Bakar went to the US Senate for a historic moment. It was a great moment. For the first time, the Senate of Delaware was beginning its session with a prayer from the Quran. In the past, it is very interesting that American relief, in spite of the claim that this is a secular country, the US Congress, as well as Senate houses, etc., even in very blue states, starts with prayer, and the Senate of Delaware also starts with prayer every day. They start with prayer every day. 1 minute is what apparently is devoted to prayers. Muslims have started the Congress in 1980s. I remember, I think it was Imam Siraj Wahaj who was the first to open a Congress session. And he gave the first prayer of the first Congress. It's not just the regular prayers, it's the beginning of the Congress, which means after November 8th election, the first time the new Congress comes in, once Imam Siraj Wahaj gave the prayer. So it has already happened at the national level, but it was the first time it was happening in Delaware. And after our Imam read the ayah from the Quran, he read one of the most beautiful ayahs from the Quran, from Surah Al-Nur, Surah Al-Nisa, about justice. But two people from the Senate, two Republicans, got up and left during the prayer. It is obviously disrespectful, but they have their rights. So they were expressing and exploiting their First Amendment right. But after that, one of the senators stood up and called the recitation of Islamic prayer in the Senate of Florida as despicable. He called it as despicable. This prayer happening here in Delaware as despicable. And he also demonstrated his ignorance immediately by saying that someone has just prayed for our demise, when the prayer was a call for justice. There was an English translation which obviously he missed because he was outside. Now, there are many things that we need to understand from this episode. One thing is that the bad news is that Islamophobia has now come to Delaware. Alhamdulillah, we have been very fortunate for a long time that we do not suffer what other people suffer in some other states like Oklahoma, for example. In Oklahoma, for a brief period of time, they have passed a law where if you are caught doing wudu, you would have gone to jail. Of course, the Supreme Court struck it down as unconstitutional. There are 25 states which try to ban the Sharia. Theoretically, you will not be able to pray or fast in Ramadan if the Sharia is banned in your state. And this particular senator had made the same effort in the state of Delaware a few years ago to pass some initiative against the Islamic Sharia in the US. So there are a few lessons I want you to reflect on. They are very important. Number one, that there have always been people who harbor animosity, anger, and enmity towards Islam and Muslims. But now they feel empowered because of the national discourse, because of the way our election went nationally, and the way our current president talks about Islam and Muslims, and not just about it, but also about foreigners and minorities, that bigots and racists feel empowered to stand up in August settings and express hate and bigotry because they feel that there is going to be no negative consequences to this. If that senator, even for a moment, thought that his hateful comments would punish him, politically he would not make those comments. He feels that not only, maybe he feels that he is going to empower himself. So the first lesson that we learn is that there are those people who are out there who harbor hate against us in their hearts, and they are going to express it. Now they feel emboldened and empowered. And you must understand that Islamophobia is like a poisonous gas. Imagine this whole room. Even if it enters anywhere in one part, it will spread rapidly. So this man comes up and makes a hateful statement, and there will be people who will now read about it and say, yeah, right, Of course, there will be those who stand up and condemn it. The President of the Senate condemned him in the strongest of terms and rebuked the senator, which is very unusual. He was immediately criticized and rebuked, scolded by the President of the Senate. But he has introduced poison into the atmosphere, which will now unfortunately spread. There is some questions that I want you to reflect on. The media for the last 3 days has been covering this episode. It is not clear to me what is the bigger story. Is the media covering this because a senator has made negative comments about Islam and Muslims? Or is the media covering this because a senator was scolded by the President of the Senate? Which is the bigger story? What is prompting this coverage? It is very important to know that. We can dismiss his Islamophobia, his hatred as ignorant, and that is where I am going in this khutbah. Not everybody hates us because there is hate in their heart. There is a tribe in South Africa that you have never heard of. Do you hate it? No. Hatred towards groups of people also come. Today, somebody drove a truck into a shopping mall in Sweden. By the time I left, it was not clear whether 3 people were dead or 5 people were dead. But that one act is given birth to thousands of Islamophobes in Sweden. Sweden was one of the countries which was the first to take refugees from Iraq and then take a disproportionate amount of refugees from Syria. I'm sure there are many today in Sweden who are regretting it. 2 weeks ago, a brother drove a car and killed so many people so spectacularly in London. So those Americans who don't know you, don't know me, don't know our masjid, do not sit down and open the Quran and read Surah Al-Rahman and say, my God, how beautiful this is. All they know about Islam and Muslims is what they see on TV. And they say that our countries are rescuing them from war. We bring them here to safety, and this is what they do. Should we ban Muslims from driving? Now this is where our communities are going. Yes, it's only one person. And there are thousands of doctors who are saving lives every day who are Muslim. There are thousands of Muslim teachers, there are thousands of Muslim professors, Muslim professionals, engineers, etc., who are helping build these nations. We are investing into these economies. All of that is forgotten when these few moments are. We cannot control what happens, we cannot control what others do. People think that as Muslims we know what is happening in the Muslim Ummah. No, we don't. I'm sure nobody in Sweden knew that this person was going to do this. But we need to become a community which, instead of reacting to moments of crisis, is proactive. And how do we be proactive? That is an important part of it. How do we prevent people? One way is to get known. One way is to know more and more people. There is, for some reason, there is a ghetto mentality even among the highly educated Muslims, even in Delaware. When they play tennis, they play only with Muslims. When they have parties, there are only Muslims at their venues. They interact socially only with their community, sometimes limited only to their ethnicities. This is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, I have created different tribes, to know, to go out there and know other people, and in that process let them know. Though a lot of you have wonderful stories, incredible success stories. We could write an encyclopedia of your success stories. You come to a foreign country, you have worked hard in a hostile, sometimes meritorious environment. You've done so well in your lives, you're bringing up your children, they're being successful, mashallah. These are great stories to tell. So share the stories with others. Let more and more people know who we are. Open our doors. The month of Ramadan is coming. This is an opportunity to give charity as much as we can. Go out there and do this charity. The Prophet ﷺ used to give charity only to Muslims. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed an ayah in the Quran. It is the 272nd ayah of Surah Al-Baqarah. It says, "It is not your duty to guide them, for Allah guides whom He wills." And after this is according to Ibn Abbas. I think I'll read the whole hadith. So, Ibn Abbas reported the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, used to order charity only for the people of Islam until this verse was revealed. Thereafter, the Prophet ordered charity for everyone, regardless of their religion. Look at all the charitable events that we do in our masajid. It is for Syria, it is for Palestine, it is for Pakistan. It is always overseas, overseas, overseas. As if we don't care for people here. Do you know that in Philadelphia sometimes up to 20% children go hungry if there is no summer schools? Children go to schools, a large segment in this country, so that they can eat, have breakfast and lunch on government for low-income families. It is very important for us to go out there, and I don't mean it from a political perspective, just to build a good image for Islam and Muslims, because that is how we need to think. That is how our deen is. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, do not insult the religious symbols and religious practices of others, because out of their ignorance they may turn around and demonize you. The reason why we are being demonized today is perhaps because we have demonized them before. And we demonize them when we find them unworthy of our charity, unworthy of our service. The Prophet ﷺ said, "You are not a believer if you go to sleep while your neighbor is hungry." My neighbor is not in Damascus. My neighbor is here. We have not invested in building good relationships. So when the negativity is coming, we are unprepared for it. There are lots of people who are standing up for us, but I'm not sure whether they're standing up for us because of us, or they're standing up for us as a way of opposing Donald Trump and his party and his politics. And then why should we as Muslims rely on the goodwill of liberals in this country? Are we trusting the liberals to save us? To ensure that the Constitution is provided to all of us? Who are they? They are not our guardians. There are thousands of imams in this country who will be quick to tell you, do not take the Jews and Christians as your guardians. But that's what we are doing today. When we don't stand up and actively participate in protecting ourselves and building a good image for our community and building relations for our community, we are relying on others to do it for us, and we are indirectly taking them as our awliya, as our guardians. This is very important for us to understand. It is important for all of you to engage. Believe me, if you do not, even at individual level, it will make a difference. Make sure you know people of other religious communities. You know the leaders, and they know you. Na'uzubillah, if a false accusation is made against you, you need people to stand up and bear witness that you are a righteous person. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi ya ayyuhallazina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Innal ladhina amanu wa amilus solihati sayaj'alu lahumur rahmanu wudda. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that those who have believed and done righteous deeds, Innal ladhina amanu wa amilus solihat, those who have believed and done righteous deeds, sayaj'alu lahumur rahmanu wudda. For them I have created mercy and love. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created, appointed for them affection, the most merciful. Now this is an important ayah of the Quran, perhaps it's not much reflected in the public discourse, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that if you believe and you are a righteous person and you do the right things, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will create love around you. Muslims have tried to understand this in many different ways. They said that people who are pious, they develop followers. I have 1 million likes. I have 2 million likes. People are competing on Twitter and Facebook with their official pages to show how they are loved by their followers. Then another way of understanding this is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that if He loves you, if you do a good thing, then you will get what you love. And if you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will meet Him on the day of judgment. But there's another way of understanding this, that we as a community, if we are righteous, and if we do the things that is right, if we get to know each other, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will create an atmosphere of love, of hope, of wisdom, and not karah, not Islamophobia. This is an important message that we all need to share. It is very important that all of you engage with the community, for there are, alhamdulillah, lots of leaders who are out there who are trying to make a difference. Support them. When people come to our masajid to engage with us, these days there are more non-Muslims in the audience than Muslims. The last 3 events that I have attended at various places in the state, there were non-Muslims than Muslims, and the event is about Muslim ban, and the event is about Islamophobia in this country. The reason why I did this khutbah was because of this hadith, where the Prophet ﷺ said, "He who does not care about our affairs does not belong among us." If you don't care about the affairs of Muslims, may Allah protect us, how can we say we belong among Muslims? ربنا آتينا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة وحسنة وقنا عذاب النار إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون وأقيموا الصلاة.